In a distant field, a boy dreamed, with the ball at your feet and the world in your eyes. On the streets of Progresso, he ran without fear. The father smiled, the mother prayed in silence. Friends said that he would be born a legend. But fate writes lines without warning. He kicked against concrete walls. I imagined stadiums full of voices. I heard applause that no one else heard. Each dribble was a promise of victory. Each goal was a pact with your dream. His frowning body hid his strength. His distant gaze revealed his faith. He didn't know what he expected beyond. But the sky seemed to call him early. As if you wanted to start your life before. To become eternal on the floor of mortals. The wind blew names he didn't understand. But his heart beat like drums of war. And in the early mornings he slept with boots. Because even your dreams had green lawns. He was born to shine, but also to fall. And the world would soon know its tragic end. He grew as fast as lightning in the sky. His talent was as clear as the summer sun. Smaller teams were just stone steps to reach the stages I wanted to step on. Local competitions became newspaper headlines. Your family began to fear the change. Because when success knocks on the door, it also brings hidden shadows in your luggage. Emiliano Sala, the quiet boy, became a man. But deep down it was still so simple and pure. He never wanted fame, just the game. The ball was your friend, your lover, your prayer. In Nantes he found a temporary home. Fans shouted his name in choir. But the crows of ambition flew over France. Cardiff City opened the doors of its final destination. Signed a contract, smiled in official photos. But at night, alone, I felt a strange weight. As if someone squeezed your chest hard. He looked through the hotel window, saw the moon. And I thought about the future that I could barely touch. Little did I know that each step was one step less. And every breath was counted as debt. Because before flying, he already felt that maybe I would never step on any field again. But he shut up his fears, put on the uniform, and smiled at the world like someone who knows too much. On the morning of the flight, the wind was cold. The clouds covered the blue with heavy gray. He called the family saying he was fine. But his voice trembled like candles in the wind. In the hangar, the plane looked like a tired bird, the wings stained with old oil and dust. He climbed each step with contained steps. In the heart, a thunder of dark omens. On WhatsApp, he sent audio to close friends. This plane looks like it's going to fall apart. I laughed softly, but it was nervous laughter. Because inside him, a deaf scream echoed. The propellers turned like the scythes of a reaper. The pilot fixed the broken instruments. And Sala took a deep breath, trying to pray. But his faith was distant, in Argentina. The engine roared, shaking the ground under his feet. The clue was left behind like your childhood. He looked down and saw the earth shrink. Like your future, getting smaller on the horizon. The storm advanced like a black army. And the clouds swallowed the plane mercilessly. It was like entering another world, with no return. On the bench, he tightened his belt hard. I felt cold in my bones, sweat in my hands, and a deadly certainty in your mind. Today I don't arrive alive at my destination. The plane danced between invisible currents. Shake like a leaf carried by the wind. Room closed his eyes trying to forget. But I heard strange noises. Dark snops. The pilot said something on the radio, in a serious tone. But his voice disappeared in the middle of the distant thunder. The lights flashed like dying stars. And the smell of burnt fuel rose strongly. He remembered his mother, her sweet voice calling. From Sundays in Progresso, from laughter on the street. Suddenly, everything seemed so small, so far away. He was just a boy lost in the night sky. The plane was shaking with demonic violence. It was as if the wind wanted to rip your wings off. Room breathed fast, almost cried. But the fear froze even her tears. I was thinking about the contract, in Cardiff City. In the future that was promised to you with smiles. He thought about the fans who were waiting for him at the airport. And in the press conference where I would never arrive. The engine failed with a metallic scream. and the silence that came after was deadly. He opened his eyes, saw the sea down there, dark, cold, infinite like destiny. And I knew that that would be your last field. Your last dribble would be in the wind. And your last goal would be in eternity. If you're enjoying this dark story, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more hidden truths from football's shadow side. The sea waited like an infinite cemetery. Waves hit each other in blind fury. On the radio, noises cut off communication. The tower asked, but there was no answer. The pilot fought against killer winds. But the plane was fragile like dry bones. Room closed his eyes and saw his childhood. I saw his father smiling when he saw him kick for the first time. I saw his mother singing for him to sleep without fear. Now the fear was a giant monster on his chest. He tried to pray in silence to any god. But he felt he was alone in that darkness. The engine screamed in agony, coughing black smoke. The smell of death entered through his nostrils. He trembled like a leaf before letting go of the branch. The pilot shouted something he didn't understand. The plane lost altitude like a dropped stone. Gravity pulled every cell from his body. He felt death sit next to him smiling. The sea rose like a wall without escape. The wind tore the windows with blind hatred. Room was breathing fast, his heart beating crazy. It was the sound of war drums against his life. And at that moment of absolute despair, he just accepted his destiny as a sacrifice. Because life sometimes chooses who will fall, even if you promised him the whole world. The plane hit the water like a stone thrown. The impact broke iron, meat and dreams in half. For eternal seconds, there was only silence. The sea closed its mouth on the metal body. The waves swallowed everything without leaving a trace. Room felt cutting cold that burned skin and soul. The water was as black as the moonless night. He tried to swim, but his body didn't respond. There were parts of him that no longer felt anything. Your eyes became blurs of lights moving away. Air bubbles rose like souls on the run. The taste of salt and gasoline burned his tongue. His ears heard only the sound of his heart. But soon this sound also went out in darkness. The plane sank like a heavy tombstone, taking with me all the dreams I carried. At the bottom of the sea, the silence was absolute. Only curious fish swam around, as if they asked who that man was, who came down from heaven straight to cold death. His face was calm, almost at peace, as if you had accepted the price paid. Because days before, he himself already knew that I wouldn't go back to the green lawn. I wouldn't even listen to the anthem again before the game. There ended the story of Emiliano Sala. In Argentina, the news came like an arrow. Mothers cried, fathers trembled in silence. In the fields where I played as a boy, the balls remained motionless, without kicks or laughter. In Nantes, fans held night vigils. They lighted candles at the door of the icy stadium. In Cardiff City, the blue chairs cried. The signed contract was still on the table. No one believed in that brutal ending. It was as if a pact had been broken. The newspapers stamped his smiling face. But now it was a smile stuck in time. Friends remembered his discreet jokes, of how he ate without speaking, always looking away. Your mother shouted your name into the gray sky. But I only received the empty echo as an answer. The players wore black armbands on the field. Each goal seemed sadder that day. The world of football stopped in absolute mourning, while planes continued to cross the skies. But none of them took back Emiliano. He was trapped in the cold waters of the English Channel, where silence is as heavy as stones, and the dark swallows any last scream. His name became a legend before becoming a memory, and his story echoed as a silent warning. Days later, they found parts of the plane. The sea returned the lifeless body. His face was serene, like someone who sleeps. But his eyes would never open to the sun again. Your coffin traveled back to Argentina. At the airport, thousands cried in silence. The childhood companions carried flowers. The smell of incense mixed with tears. The priest spoke of heaven and eternal rest. But no one there wanted to hear about paradises. They just wanted the boy who kicked walls. who dribbled with joy and ran light. In that wake, there was a heavy silence, as if everyone heard what he predicted. Your audios saying, "This plane will fall apart." It was as if I had seen the future unintentionally, and maybe you accepted it before taking off. Because there are people who are born to live little, but live so intensely that they mark eternity. His coffin was covered with the Nantes shirt, and in the French stadium, everyone shouted his name, as if they wanted to wake him up from mortal sleep. But dead people don't wake up with applause or prayers. They live only in the memory of those they loved. And Sala became a memory before turning into longing. The sea remained calm after his death, as if nothing had happened there. But in the memory of those who saw your ascension, there was always the unanswered question. Why did he know he was going to die? Omen or fear, truth or paranoia? It didn't matter to those who cried their departure. The newspapers talked about human error. The experts talked about a technical error. But the truth is that his soul left before. When you sent that dark audio, he said he was scared to death. And sometimes fear is disguised prophecy. Psychologists explained how anxiety. But deep down, everyone knew, he knew. Because death warns before it arrives. We just don't listen or we don't want to hear. In Cardiff, your closet was locked. With new boots that I would never wear. Personalized shirts that I would never wear. And a millionaire contract without an owner. Because not all money buys destiny. Not all fame buys more time. Your number was without a substitute for months. As if it were a curse written on the back. In France, its history became an urban legend. They say that in the stadium, in night games, players smell of wet grass. And they hear footsteps running through the empty corridor. Some goalkeepers claim to see a blonde figure crossing the field at ghost speed. Fans swear to hear your name in the wind, as if the crowd screamed even without a game. Night employees avoid certain areas where lights flash for no reason. The stadium became his dark temple, where your soul runs free without pain. Because in death, maybe he has peace. Or maybe you're stuck with what you loved the most. In the empty stand, chairs creak by themselves, as if someone sat down to watch training. There are reports of balls rolling without any wind, and doors slamming when they say your name loudly. On nights of dense fog, reflectors fail, and they say that your silhouette appears in the central circle. Some say he appears in dreams. Fans wake up crying without knowing why. They dream that they see him running on the side, crossing perfect balls for invisible attackers. In the dream, he never says anything. Just look at the sky and smile sadly. Your face seems illuminated by moonlight, but your eyes are deep like abysses. He raises his arms like someone who celebrates a goal. But there is no cheering, only silence. And then he disappears into the darkness of the field. They wake up smelling of grass and sweat, as if they had returned from a night workout. Some say it's just longing manifesting. Others say it's your soul asking for prayer. But there are those who believe in trapped spirits, stuck in the last wish before death. And Sala just wanted to play soccer. I just wanted to mark your name in history. Even if this story was interrupted early. Your legacy is not in goals or dribbles. It's in the void you left on the lawns. At Cardiff City, they never forgot their name. Fans painted murals in his honor. With your serious face and determined look. Yellow and blue flowers decorate the walls. On game days, they light candles discreetly, as if they invited your spirit to watch. Players touch his photo before entering the field, in search of luck or protection against tragedies. Some feel a strange chill when doing it, as if they felt your presence watching. But none of them refuses the silent gesture, because everyone knows that he was wronged by fate. Bought for millions, but never presented. He was supposed to be the hero of a team lost in the table. The Salvador striker who would make history. But it became just a headline of death and mystery. His name echoes through the corridors of the club, like a ghost that demands to be remembered. And as long as the team exists, Sala will exist. Even if it's like shade in the locker rooms. or like a cold sigh in the empty corridors. If you're enjoying this dark story, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more hidden truths from football's shadow side. On the plane, besides him, there was only the pilot. An ordinary man who also dreamed of coming back. But no one talks about him in the football newspapers. Because the world only remembers those who shine. The pilot became a footnote in the tragedy. Your family cried silently away from the spotlight. But death doesn't choose fame or anonymity. She only takes what she wants when she wants. The researchers reconstructed the final path. Every second until the cold dive in the waters. But they will never be able to reconstitute the fear felt. Not even the final thought before the impact. Did Sala think of a beautiful goal? Did you think about your mother, your father, God? Or did you not think of anything, just felt? The fall was so fast that there wasn't even a scream. Only an absolute silence before the end. An end that was written in the heavens without compassion. And the sea, like a mute gravedigger, did its job. Buried everything under gray and cold waves, while the world continued to turn indifferently, with other flights, other goals, other players. But for some, nothing has ever been the same. In Argentina, they built a small memorial. Photos of him smiling, dribbling, heading. Candles burned day and night next to white flowers. Children touch their images as if they blessed. For them, he is almost a soccer saint. The man who flew high and never came back. Parents tell their story as a silent warning. That life can change in seconds. That death can be waiting on any trip. Some say they saw your appearance in the neighborhood, walking at dawn through the empty fields, with Nantes' yellow shirt stained with mud, and worn-on boots hitting the floor lightly. But when they get closer, it disappears in the wind, leaving only the smell of wet grass in the air. They are urban legends that grow with time, and each generation recounts with darker details, because this is how eternal myths are created. Room was not just a man or a player. It became a legend that scares and inspires at the same time. It became a shadow that runs along the sides of the fields, where the wind blows names that no one else hears. Untin except those who believe in the dark side of football. Some psychologists analyze the impact of the tragedy. Fans have developed fear of flying. Players began to prefer land trips. Agents reinforced life insurance clauses. Because Sala showed the fragility of fame. It showed that stars also die like anyone else. That strong muscles don't hold falling planes. What expensive boots don't walk on dead water. His funeral brought together poor and rich side by side. Because death equals everyone under the same gray sky. And while they carried their coffin through the streets, people threw yellow petals on the road, as if they wanted to cover the path of death. But no one can cover the path of destiny. The tears fell heavily like summer rain. And deep down of each person, there was the same question. Why did such a great talent end so quickly? But maybe it's because legends don't last long. Legends appear, shine and disappear into the darkness, leaving only traces to be followed. In Nantes, they retired his shirt for a year. And in each match, there was a minute of silence. But it was a heavy, almost suffocating silence. Because everyone remembered the calm smile. From the loaded accent speaking crooked French. Of the shy hugs after each goal scored. He wasn't a media star, he was a worker. A route attacker, of race, of sweat, of humility. That's why your death hurt so much in so many hearts. It hurt like a knife stuck without being able to be removed. In the locker room, his closet was sealed for months. No one wanted to take anything out of there, as if it were an altar. His companions talked about him with tears. Even the toughest had watery eyes. Because they lost a friend, not just a colleague. They lost a man who carried hope. And football lost the purity it represented. Because after his death, the money looked dirty. The millionaire contracts looked like sad jokes. Because in the end, everything ends the same, with silence. But they say that before boarding the final flight. He sent messages to family and friends, saying that the plane seemed to be falling apart. Who heard strange noises during takeoff. And that something inside him screamed not to enter. But the dream spoke louder than the deadly fear. Because big dreams blind any prudence, especially when it comes from the absolute nothing. When every step is victory against cruel destiny, and every contract is hope to save the family. He got on that small and fragile plane, with the suitcase of dreams and a future in mind. Some say they prayed softly before taking off. Others assure that he cried in silence. But no one knows the truth of that final moment. The only certainty is that he never answered again. The sea swallowed your words, your body and your scream. But he couldn't erase his dreamy soul. Because player souls don't sink into the ocean. They keep floating on the lawns of the world. But in the world of football, death is soon forgotten. Because the next game always comes ruthless. The next star appears, the next goal explodes. And the names disappear at the speed of a pass. That's why your story needs to be told here. So that it's never just a tragic statistic. So that they know that Emiliano was more than mourning. It was a shy smile, it was strength, it was a pure dream. In Patagonia, where he was born, the wind speaks his name. Old people say they hear your voice calling for goals. Boys kick old balls in dirt fields. And they repeat, I want to be like Sala, play in Europe. Without knowing that sometimes Europe swallows dreams. Without knowing that planes can become coffins in the skies. But no one warns children about the cruelty of the world. Because dreams need to be born free, without fear. And maybe that's the final lesson he left. That it's worth dreaming, even if it hurts in the end. Because those who don't dream die in life without realizing it. And Sala lived every minute with hunger for the field. Each goal scored was a cry of victory against fate. Each kick given was a punch in the chest of the impossible. Until the last second before the fatal dive. When the sea shut up forever his goal screams. But even quiet, your name keeps echoing. Today fans still leave letters on his grave. They write as if he could answer from there. They tell about their lives, their childhood dreams. About painful defeats and unforgettable victories. They ask for protection for exams, training and matches. As if he were a soccer saint who intercedes. And maybe it really is, in some secret corner of the sky. Because someone so pure can't disappear into nothing. His father died shortly after, heartbroken. They say he listened to his son's voice at night at home, calling, Dad, come see my goal in Europe. But the father has never seen this goal so dreamed of. He only saw cold headlines, helicopters and funerals. He just hugged a sealed coffin instead of a body. He only kissed a printed photo instead of a face. And this kind of pain consumes the soul until it goes out. That's why he left quickly, to meet his son again. And together, who knows, play ball in another field. A field without greedy businessmen or old planes. A field where there is only grass, ball and joy. Where each goal is just pure celebration. And every hug lasts beyond the final whistle. Because here on earth, hugs always end early. But there in heaven, maybe they will be eternal. Maybe Emiliano Sala is still smiling. This is the story of the man who became a dark legend. Who showed football the real price of each dream. Who proved that talent doesn't always win over death. Because there are forces that not even golden boots win. But his name is still alive in the corners of the fans. In the silent tears of those who saw their ascension. And in the sad prayers of those who saw your brutal fall. He was more than a player, he was a symbol of purity. A striker who dribbled with his heart and soul. And even without having scored hundreds of goals in big clubs, your name will be engraved among the immortals of the sport. Because dying young is a tragedy, but it also eternalizes. No one will see your white hair or tired body. He will always be that strong and dreamy young man. With the determined gaze of those who face life. Your final flight may have been short and cruel. But he raised his name above the weather clouds. And on the dark side of football, it shines like a full moon. Illuminating the paths of other nocturnal dreamers. Showing that there is beauty even in the coldest darkness. Because your light didn't go out, it just changed places. And whenever you hear your name in the wind, remember, Emiliano Sala was not only a victim of tragedy. It was proof that a player's soul never dies. Because legends never die, they just become eternal shadows, running free in the infinite fields of the unknown. If this story moved you, leave a like to keep these legends alive. Comment your thoughts about Emiliano Sala's tragedy, and don't forget to subscribe. This is just the beginning of football's darkest secrets.